And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth.
This world is very different from what most people think it is. There is so much to this. As I said, if you start looking and asking questions about the very basic things, you'll find that the answers you were given as a child just do not make sense. They know what's going on, how this world works. We don't. I think it was a guy called Che Munday who said there are only two possibilities. Either there is a God or there isn't. And both of them are terrifying. The science community is ignoring a lot of the things that we're looking at them. It seems like Admiral Byrd found the edge of the dome. We're being kept away from it for a reason. And literally it's controlled by the military. If you try and go there by yourself, you will be So yeah, there's more going on in ECI. It seems like Admiral Byrd found the edge of the dome. It seems like Admiral Byrd found the edge of the dome. So I believe they clearly know that we're in an enclosed system.
And God said, "Let there be light."
There's something wrong here. There's something wrong here. This has to be some of the most leading evidence. I'd say one out of top 10 leading evidence that proves to us that the earth is flat, my friends. If you're a skeptic, I want you to do some research. Go ahead and research it yourself.
This is with the polarizing lens. You can clearly see the sun not only fluctuating in brightness, but it's setting in the clouds. There's no two ways about it.
And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens, in the firmament of the heavens, in the firmament of the heavens, in the firmament of the heavens."
Absolutely unbelievable. The sun just set in the clouds.
Five vehicles armed. 3, 2, 1, fire. Missile away.
Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy.
There is a firmament or dome encasing our flat plane. The firmament is described in the Bible's creation narrative. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." In Egyptian mythology, Nut is the goddess of the sky. She is seen star-covered, arching over the earth, representing its dome. In Greek mythology, Uranus was the primeval god of the sky. The Greeks imagined the sky as a solid dome of brass, whose edges descended to rest upon the outermost limits of the flat earth. Uranus was the literal sky, and Gaia the earth. In the Roman era, he was often depicted as Aeon, god of eternal time, in the form of a man holding the zodiac wheel, standing above Gaia. The Hebrews believed the sky was a solid dome. They called this solid vault of heaven the Rakia, with the sun, moon, and stars beneath. In Indian mythology, the dome is called Brahmanda. This is the structure of the world according to Finnish mythology, showing a dome with the stars projected onto it. In the Aboriginal conception of the world, the earth was circular and flat, covered by the dome of the sky, which stretched out to the horizon. So many ancient peoples knew about this dome and wove it into their worldview. But there is no coincidence that the same description of a flat earth and dome is so common. These cultures around the world had special knowledge about the nature of this place we are living in. The dome is connected to catastrophes that have been recorded throughout the ages. In ancient times, something very awful happened, the Great Flood, sometimes called the Deluge. It was so devastating and frightening that it remained in all of humanity's ancient written and oral traditions. It's possible that these stories over time have been transformed from true descriptions into mythology, where the celestial bodies are given names and human-like characteristics, and in this way, everything was hidden in plain sight. Almost every culture around the world has a great flood in the pages of their mythology. It's possible that these stories over time have been transformed from true descriptions into mythology, where the celestial bodies are given names and human-like characteristics, and in this way, everything was hidden in plain sight. Almost every culture around the world has a great flood in the pages of their mythology. Here we see the Milky Way's Great Rift. The definition of rift is a crack, split, or break in something. The Great Rift we see when we look at the sky is not a series of dust clouds like the liars at NASA would have us believe, but a literal crack in the dome. The Mayans called this the Dark Rift before any scientists had named it the Great Rift. The Bible refers to this crack as the windows of heaven. It was through these windows, through the dark rift, that the waters of the great floods fell. In Norse mythology, we find that at Ragnarok, the sky splits in two. From the split, the sons of Muspel ride forth. In the Babylonian creation epic, the sky is made from the body of Tiamat, the goddess of watery chaos. The god Marduk splits her like a shellfish into two parts, posting guards as to not let her waters escape. The Aboriginal people saw the Dark Rift as the area where a dangerous creature known as Yura lives. Among American Indians, the sky was also conceived of as a solid dome which would break in cycles. As Lucien Levy-Bruhl wrote, in North America, in Indian belief, the earth is a circular disk, usually surrounded on all sides by water, and the sky is a solid concave hemisphere coming down at the horizon to the level of the earth. Over the years, much evidence has come forth that a worldwide flood happened 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. There's also evidence that a worldwide flood occurred as recent as the 1800s. These are photos you rarely see, ancient structures covered in mud and many destroyed, but they have since been dug up and refurbished. Many ancient sites we know and love are not the originals. They were buried and rebuilt in the late 1800s through the early 1900s. We could excuse the destruction of some of these ancient sites if they were one area or continent, but we see the same all throughout the world. Mexico, Egypt, Greece, Russia. The elite rebuilt these structures for us because they don't want us to know about the destruction that took place sometime in the 1800s. History is easily hidden when the general populace isn't writing it. Might Earth constantly be in a state of destruction and renewal? I'm suggesting that these floods are cyclical. The sun, moon, planets, and constellations somehow dictate this reset clock mechanism of the flat Earth. At this point, we can only speculate. What we can be sure of, however, is that there is a dome above us, and these floods come from the crack we see in the dark rift. The reality of the dome and cyclical destruction is hidden in plain sight. The flat Earth dome is fastened to the outer limits of the Antarctica ice wall that surrounds our plane. In 1947, during Operation High Jump, Admiral Byrd discovered the outer boundaries of the firmament. Many of his men's planes were disappearing very quickly. A lot of them were crashing into invisible barriers and disintegrating in mid-flight. Soon after, many measures like the Antarctica Treaty and a consistent military presence at the ice wall were put in place to cover up the structure of our enclosed world system, while also preventing unwarranted intrusion which could lead to an announcement of the discovery of the Earth's dome. Here are some photos of the ice wall which the dome is fastened to. Sadly, we don't have as many as we would like since this area is heavily protected by military presence. So if there is a dome, how are meteorites explained? Debris floats around in the currents of the waters above the dome, occasionally hitting the barrier with enough force to penetrate it. This debris falls to the Earth as meteorites. It's been suggested that Libyan desert glass, mysterious shards of a glass-like material which, according to the scientists, has an unknown origin, are pieces of the dome that have been shed. Hast thou stretched out the heavens, which are strong, and as a molten glass? Every photo and video given to us by NASA is completely faked and riddled with CGI. Here we see a supposed video feed of Earth. Where are all the satellites? Satellites do not exist. Most of us notice as soon as we're out of the city and in more remote areas, our satellite cell service starts to decline in intensity. We also see problems with GPS in remote areas, supposedly a technology that also uses satellites. Cell towers are responsible for much of our GPS. By measuring the signal strength differences between multiple cell towers, your device can estimate your current location. Data is also propagated through undersea cables. Cables connect between the continents. Lighter than air vehicles, high-altitude airships, and high-altitude platforms are often misperceived as satellites by the public. So at nighttime, when you see one of those moving dots in the sky and believe it to be a satellite, it's actually one of these illuminated balloons. With new eyes, it becomes clear. No actual photos, no actual video footage, just CGI and photoshopped images. The similar Hebrew word nasha means to lead astray, to delude, to morally seduce. The sun and moon are each about only 3,000 miles away, sitting well underneath the dome. What about the stars? Sonoluminescence is the emission of short bursts of light from imploding bubbles in a liquid when excited by sound. To put in simple terms, the energy of a sound wave in a fluid can create flashes of light. Due to sound frequencies, beautiful patterns occur on the surface of an object closely surrounding the sound vibrating medium. The stars are full of similar geometric patterns, and we can zero in and see it looks like these lights are indeed reflecting off water in a similar fashion that they would on the floor of a pool or ocean. With just a telescope in our backyards, we can see that planets are not as defined as NASA would have us believe. In fact, Venus looks more like a star than a planet, and same with Mars. I'm still figuring out what exactly planets are, but for now we can assume they are created similarly by sonoluminescence. The planets have a strong spiritual influence on this plane as seen in astrology. They are a monumental part of the guiding forces on Earth, and therefore are somehow intact in ways the stars are not. We've been seeing the same constellations and stars in the skies for thousands of years. This is because the stars are revolving year after year in the same positions around us. It's amazing how most of humanity is fooled into thinking the opposite, even while our senses tell us otherwise. The transgression of stars also make the dome shape. The North Star remains perfectly fixed in place night after night, year after year. The swastika is an ancient symbol seen in almost all ancient cultures in some form. The Big Dipper dances in a circle around Polaris, and this is where the swastika symbol comes from. This is the first footage ever to be seen of the polar entrance. This is a huge opening at Earth's North Pole, even though it might look small here. Ancient cosmology and illustrations are riddled with mandalas and drawings that all converge toward the center.
The doors of Earth are open to you.
I came here to tell you that something is coming.